Good afternoon, everyone. I know it's a graveyard session, and everyone will be feeling lazy after having a lunch and everything. But this is one of the interesting topics in the recruitment industry. Okay. Now, when we say client management strategies, here what I'm trying to tell you is our clients are basically the hiring managers. If you're in the corporate world. If you're an agency recruiter, your clients would be your clients. Okay? So today we're going to discuss about how we're going to actually work with our clients and get the processes right so that we have a proper recruitment process in the companies. Okay? So for me, the mantra of client management is not to manage the clients, but to partner with them. Okay. Now, every one of you, are you recruiters here? How many of you are recruiters here? Okay. So most of you are recruiters. Okay. How many of the times have you actually blamed your hiring managers for not accepting your candidates? All the time. Okay. But have you ever tried to partner with them and understand them as to what exactly they need? Have you tried doing that? Yes. Did it work? Yes. Okay. So I've got a certain pointers or certain strategies which you can have in your companies where you can define these processes so that you can have a better relationship with your hiring managers. Okay. Now we always blame it on hiring managers, but do you actually know what pain points are of the hiring manager? Okay, I've listed down a few pain points. Okay, first of all, they have low hiring budgets. Okay, we recruiters, sometimes there's a miscommunication between us and the hiring managers, and we try to give unqualified candidates, okay, to the hiring managers. So they've got a pile of unqualified candidates, and they look through this pile of candidates, and after that they end up rejecting all our candidates. Okay. The second thing, they're always busy. Okay, they've got their own projects to work on, they've got their own processes, and so they normally don't look at your CV as they should be looking at those CVs because they're too busy, right? Now, one important thing is needed the candidate yesterday. The leadership team or the sales team would tell the hiring managers that we need this person immediately because we have a project to start. Okay? So there's always a sense of urgency in the hiring managers. Okay? Now, this sense of urgency again reflects on the recruiters, and they end up sending too many candidates, and they end up rejecting too many candidates there. Okay, so how do we prevent this? Okay, first thing is prioritization of the requests, the requisitions we have. Okay, second and the most important part is the intake meeting. The intake meeting with the hiring manager or the clients. Okay. Third is after you've done with the intake meeting, how do you collaborate with your hiring manager or your clients and build a relationship or build a partnership with these people, so that on an ongoing basis you do not face such problems in future. Okay. So let's talk about prioritization. Now, if you've read the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, he's mentioned 4 quadrants of prioritization in the entire life. There are certain things which are both urgent and important. Second priority should always be given to something which is important but not urgent. Third priority should always be given to urgent but not important. And fourth should be everything else. Okay. Now, Now when we say that these are the 4 quadrants and how we would actually have our requisitions, I mean, how do we prioritize our requisitions? How do we work with the hiring managers based on some priorities? Okay, so the priorities can be based on these 4 important factors. Okay, first and the foremost is business imperative. Now, certain roles are very crucial for the company, okay, for a project or for a process. Okay, so this particular point should be the first point to be considered when you're prioritizing your request. Okay, second is number of job openings. Okay, for any particular vacancy, if there are multiple job openings, okay, you'll have to look at how many vacancies are there, which are the urgent ones and which are the important ones. Okay, which particular requirement would actually impact the business or the projects or the processes. Depending on those job openings, you'll have to pick up one of them and start working on one of them. Okay, now this again, as a recruiter, you're not actually allowed to do this, because hiring managers, they give you these priorities always. Okay, now third is hiring managers' adherence to SLAs. How many of you guys have faced this problem that you send a CV to a hiring manager and you keep waiting until you get a response from the hiring manager, and you wait for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and until that your candidate is already gone? How many of you face this problem? Everyone. Okay, now this is basically because there are no set SLAs between the recruitment team and the hiring managers or the clients. We should have proper SLAs or proper expectations set, the proper timelines to be set between the recruiters, recruitment team and the hiring manager. Okay. Third, again, the priorities. Now, there would be a difference between the priorities from the leadership team. There would be a difference between the priorities of hiring manager, and recruiter is just in between thinking, what requirement should I work on? I mean, the leadership team is saying that we have to work on this requirement. Hiring manager is saying we have to work on this requirement. So there's a lot of confusion. And towards the end, what we end up doing is we end up working on any requirement which was not a priority, and the pressure builds up, and again the process of recruitment, everything is again in a mess. Okay, so priority is the most important thing when you are actually working on any requirement. Prioritize your requirements and then work on those requirements. Now, the most important thing in this entire process is the intake meeting. Now, normally, can any one of you tell me, you get a job requirement, what do you normally do? Anyone? You analyze the requirement? Yes? Get more details. Okay? Anything else? Okay. Now, we run a RPO. We've got about 100 sources working in Pune, and as a process, whenever we get a requirement, like she said, we normally have a meeting with the hiring managers, and before the meeting, okay, there are a lot of things we actually do. Now, this meeting is actually for the strategy part of the recruitment. Okay. Now, why should we have this meeting? First thing is, it shows value, because you get a requirement, okay, and you start working on the requirement, and you come to know that there are certain candidates which are not available, or there are candidates which are available. There are certain skill sets there are certain people with certain skill sets, but certain skill sets are missing. So you come across a lot of things. So do you actually talk to the hiring manager? No. Okay. So it shows value when you actually do this reviews and take a intake meeting after that to discuss with the hiring manager. Okay. Now, you do a lot of searches, send across CVs to the hiring manager will reject those CVs, and again you would end up wasting a lot of time looking at a lot of candidates. But if you do a intake meeting before you actually start doing the actual search, this would reduce a lot of time. Okay. You get to know all the information from the hiring manager through this intake meeting. There are a lot of critical answers which needs to be answered by the hiring managers, which normally as a recruiter we tend to fail. We actually do not look at those questions, and we just blindly start working on the requirements.
So we have something like a recruitment discussion that we have.
Yes.
Like you're talking about.
Yeah.
In that we discuss about the skill sets that are required.
Yes.
The interview process, and we build kind of expectation with the hiring manager.
Yes.
Saying this is the sourcing time that is going to take. This is when interviews are going to happen. Setting that expectation in the first call also is what we do.
Yes.
So that recruitment discussion covers everything.
Yeah. So this recruitment discussion is nothing but this intake meeting. Okay. Now in this intake meeting, what needs to be taken to the meeting, what needs to be taken out of the meeting, and how do you actually wrap up the meeting. Okay. The first important thing is do your homework. Okay. Now you get a requirement. Before going to the hiring manager, do your own homework. Okay. So you get a requirement, you start working on the job boards, get some sample resumes from the job boards. Get 2 or 3 sample resumes. One resume should be a good cream candidate which has got all the skills, all the qualifications, location, and every possible everything in that resume. There should be a couple of resumes which would be somewhere the skills wouldn't be there, or the location won't be there, or certain those kind of. So when you go to the meeting, you'll have to take these resumes along with you. This is your first homework. Second homework would be to look at to do a market research and find out where these people would be. Okay, if you're working on some finance requirements, if you're working on some IT requirements, okay, so what are the tools available on the internet? Where we would actually find these candidates? Would it be on job boards? Okay, or would it be on social networking sites? What is the strategy you're going to apply for this? So that is one part of the homework. Okay. Second is a sample intake form. Now this sample intake form doesn't mean a job description. Okay. Now this sample intake form should be a form where you gather all the possible information for that particular requirement. So whether it's competitors, whether you have a list of questions, all critical questions and those type of. So there should be a sample intake form. Okay. And also sample resumes. Now during the meeting, you talk to your hiring managers and you get information on the candidates and on the requisition, you get critical answers and all those things. So when you leave that meeting, the most important thing is you should have a portrait of an ideal candidate. So you know what an ideal candidate would be for that particular requisition. Okay. The other part is critical answers. Okay. Now these critical answers, can you give me some examples of critical questions you would ask your hiring managers for your requirements? Any critical questions?
Is there any other requirement that is not actually mentioned in this document? For example, functional requirements like any specific culture that you might be looking for, something like that which is not mentioned in the document.
Yeah. So basically when we get a requisition from hiring manager, you would only get skill sets, qualification, location and the salary range, right? But there are other critical factors also. For example, what is the project this candidate is going to work on, right? What are the team members or who are the team members with whom this particular candidate is going to work with? Have you heard about DISC analysis, DISC, dominant, influence, okay? So if there's a requirement and that requires an influence person, let's say a sales person is a good influence person, okay? So now the people with I ability do not match with D, right? So would you actually take that candidate in the team? No, because then there would be a problem in the teamwork, okay? So similarly, these are the critical questions you need to ask your hiring managers before you actually take a decision on any particular candidate, okay? So I've listed down a few questions, okay? I've got about 3 slides which have got a list of questions which you should be asking to your hiring managers. But before we actually go to this slide, I'll have to, can we have interaction from you guys and you tell me what questions would you ask your hiring managers now? What kind of questions would you ask? Say I'm your hiring manager and I gave you a requirement that I need a project manager to work, a project manager who would be leading a team of 10 software developers, okay, based in Bangalore, salary as per company norms. What are the questions you're going to ask me now?
How soon you want the candidate onboarded? Can you wait for 3 months?
Okay, good question.
It's a new position or the replacement?
Yes, very good question. If it's a new position or a replacement, okay.
Do you have any references for your own team?
Yes, references, because hiring managers, they would know certain people in that particular industry or in that particular vertical. They would know a lot of people. So it's no harm asking references from the hiring manager.
Will there be any night shift?
Okay, shifts. Okay. Okay, must to have and good to have, right? Open to relocation candidates, right?
Any specific companies to target?
Right, perfect. Yes.
I will ask if I have exclusive in the first place.
Sorry?
Am I working on the requirement alone or do I have competitors working on it?
Okay, so that's from an agency point of view?
Yeah, kind of agency.
Yes.
And from how many days is the position open?
Okay. So let's imagine I tell you that the position is open from last 6 months. What is your next question to me?
What are the challenges? Why didn't we able to close it?
Yes. What are the challenges in filling? Okay. So you told that whether it's a new requirement or a replacement. Let's say I tell you it's a replacement. What would be your question?
What was the person, why he had left, or what are the challenges he has faced? Or he was promoted to the next position and that's the reason it gets work back again.
Okay.
Whom he is going to report to.
Okay. Now, some of the questions were very good. Okay. Some of the questions, now as I mentioned, that you need to do your homework. Okay. So, before you ask ask your hiring manager what are the companies you want the candidate to come from. Okay. If you ask this question, it looks like you're not being an authority. Okay, you're just asking him, he's giving an answer, and so do not ask such questions. You do your research first and tell them that these are the list of companies. Now tell me from which company do you actually want. Okay, so this way what would happen is that hiring manager would have confidence in you. Okay, you would build confidence in that relationship, right? So here are a few questions. Why has this position been created? What need are we trying to fill? Okay, so maybe if it's a leadership role or something, why is this position needed in the company? Or is there a new process? Or is there a new project which is coming? So what kind of team are we looking at? So this way you can actually there are a lot of other questions which come up if we get answer to this. Okay, what is the product being developed, or what is the project that is being worked on or managed? Okay, so again, with this type of question, you would know what type of companies to be targeted, or which companies would have certain types of projects. So you know what companies need to be targeted. Okay. Now, what companies would you like to see your candidates come from? But make sure that you've done your homework first, so you know a list of companies, and you tell him that this is the list of companies and what companies you want the candidate come from. Okay. So what are the qualifications, relocation, salary, etc. Discuss the characteristics of a performer in that particular team. So if it's a new hire, what are the characteristics of a top performer? So this would help you to get the best candidate. Okay. Ask about the collective personality of his or team. So as I mentioned, DISC. Okay. So similarly, there are a lot of other things. Now, if you're looking for an analyst role, or a programmer role, or a coder role, these people should be from the same background, so that they can work with each other. They should work as a team. Okay. If you're looking for a manager level position or a leadership level position, the characteristics of that person would differ. Okay. So you'll have to look at how the company is, how that person can be culturally fitted in the company. What are the KRAs and the KPIs for the role? Very important question. Okay. What are the challenges in the role? What is the growth path of the candidate in the company? Now, with this information, you can actually sell your job. When you know the career path of the recruiter or the candidate, you can sell your job properly to the candidate. Okay. As Sir said, is it a backfill or a new requisition? What is the value proposition of that particular project, or of that particular department, or of the organization as a whole? This helps you in selling the job better. Okay. Why has this role been so difficult to fill? If it was a 6 months old job or a 10 months old job, what has been the challenge factors? Is it the location? Is it the skills? Or is it the salary requirements? And is there any flexibility around this so that we can fix this issue? Okay. What companies are off limits for recruiting? So we tell him that these are the list of companies we need to recruit for, but out of this, if there's any particular company which we don't want to look at, tell me those companies as well, so that we don't look at those companies. Again, if there are candidates whom we've previously interviewed, okay, and maybe due to certain reasons we've rejected them, or there could be any reason that we've blacklisted a few candidates. So are those candidates, and can we reconsider those candidates also? Okay. Again, suggested target companies which to source include but not limited to top 5 companies. So what are the type of companies we would be looking at? Does the hiring manager know any particular individual in any particular company, so that we can talk to the person, look at the team and map the team of that person, or get people from that person and hire people from that particular department or from that particular team? Okay. What particular challenges are inherent in the role? Okay. And what will this person need to accomplish to succeed? Yeah. So these points we already discussed. What are the challenges, and what would the candidate need to be succeed in this role? Okay. Now once you have this questions, now you are in a better position to look at the candidate and give better candidates to the hiring manager. Okay, but there are still some parts missing in the process. Okay, now we've covered the candidate part as to what candidate we're going to give, but there are still loopholes between the recruitment team and the hiring manager because the expectations are not set. Okay, so we should have SLAs and expectation setting also done in the intake meeting. Now these SLAs and expectation setting would be, first would be your time to review. Okay, so you send a candidate and like you all said that you wanted to wait for you wait for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then after that you get a response from the hiring manager, and then after that the candidate gets he takes some other offer. Okay, so we should have a strict SLA between the recruitment team and the hiring manager where we define timelines, that if we submit a candidate between this and this time, the candidate should be interviewed or the feedback should be given about that particular candidate. Okay, the timelines for closing the role also should be discussed. Okay, now educate the hiring manager on the candidate experience. Now there would be certain requirements where you would find a lot of candidates. There would be certain niche requirements where you won't find a lot of candidates. But being a hiring manager, the first thing I would look at is, no, I gave you a job requirement, now I need to fill this requirement. But when you do your homework, when you do your research, during the intake meeting, you can tell the hiring manager that for this particular requirement, we don't have so many candidates. So what are the other things we're going to do? Okay, so that discussion should happen between the hiring manager and the recruitment team. Okay, so this education on the candidate experience is not done currently in many of the organizations. Okay, you should be educating your hiring manager on what is available in the market and what can be given and what kind of candidates we would be placing. So that education is not there in the system at the moment. Okay, now quality over quantity. Now this particular, this is a number game. Again, certain hiring managers would look at 10 resumes and then decide on a placement. Certain would look at 15 resumes and then decide on a placement. Someone would look at 5 resumes and then, okay. But then this, when you've asked your questions, when you know all the critical answers and everything, okay, this quality over quantity, you should be giving only quality candidates so that the number of the number game also reduces. So hiring manager doesn't need to look at pile of unqualified candidates. He would look at only few candidates which are good and would take a decision in those resumes. Okay. Now, what do we do after the meeting? What happens after the meeting is done? So normally, what do you do once your requisition meeting is done?
So once the recruitment discussion is done, we are clear about what the hiring manager wants.
Uh-huh.
That's when we, review the entire details that you've shared and
Uh-huh.
kind of start the source code.
Okay. So now when you go back, you've got all the answers, everything. So how do you review it? What is the normal process you follow in your company?
So we have a set of questions that we have a form or something that we generally ask in the recruitment discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the skill sets and the education qualification, the challenges the hiring managers faced previously, like you mentioned.
Uh-huh.
So what we do is we review all those answers, the target companies that he's shared with us.
Mm-hmm.
We go back and do a market mapping, basically just to see how many candidates are available, what is the pool of candidates available.
Okay. Now, do you review this with the hiring manager?
You mean the candidates?
Yeah?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Now, as she said, the first thing you should be doing is, You review everything, you've got all your critical answers, answers to your questions, everything is done. Rewrite your job description. With all the answers you've got, rewrite the entire job description, send it to your hiring manager again. Ask him to review the new job description and then start working on it. But before you actually jump into sending candidates, that now the hiring manager said, okay, we've done the meeting, this new job description is fine, and now start sending me candidates. Again, don't do that. Again, make a combination of some A-list candidates and B-list candidates. So tell the hiring managers that these are the kind of profiles I'm getting. So 2 or 3 sample of A-list. Now A-list candidates are the people with all the skills. B-list are, they might have some location or salary issues or certain skills missing in their CVs. Okay, so show him the combination of different resumes. Now when you show your hiring manager different combination, you would come to know what CVs the hiring manager has rejected and what kind of CVs he has accepted. Go back to your hiring manager and ask, why did you reject these candidates? What was the reason? Okay, and then you start knowing the reason. So once you do this, then you actually know what your actual candidate is, and then you would be only sending good candidates to your hiring manager. Okay, now after you send this A-list and B-list candidates, now there would be certain resumes, or there would be certain candidates who would write their profiles in different ways. So as a recruiter, you'll have to think of different ways how the candidate would write his profile. Okay, so risk assessment, people would write assessment of risk. So there would be different combination of words. So all these things. So get an insight on all this and start using these different keywords in your searches when you're finding candidates. Okay. Now, once you've done this entire process, everything, normally how do you submit candidates? Anyone?
Give a description about the candidate. If he's working in some technology, particular technology, what is the experience level, and small brief about what his work experience is in a paragraph, and then attach the resume.
Okay. That's a good way of putting it to the hiring manager. But all this information can be, he can get it in the resume also. So what is different, what you're sending it to him? What is different?
So it's not copy-paste from the resume. I just ask the candidate to send me a summary of what he's done.
Okay.
That is what I attach in the body of the email and then attach the resume.
Okay. So now when you find a candidate on a job board, do you try to find that candidate on any social media site? Have you ever done that, anyone? You've done that? Okay. So what else do you, what other social media sites do you search on? Just LinkedIn? Okay. Now, sending the description is a good thing. We should be sending it. But apart from sending description, look at this candidate on different social media sites. Look at how active he is. Look at his personal details. Okay, and send a report to the hiring manager saying that this is what he's been doing on social media, and this is why I have selected that particular candidate. Okay, so you have to bat for your candidate so that the hiring manager gets more information on that candidate so that he can make a decision in a quick manner. Okay, so go to social media, look at what, he must be a part of some football club, he must have won some awards, some trophies. Get all these things on his resume, because people won't write all these things on their resume. Okay, look at their accomplishments, look at the colleges, what technologies, there are a lot of things they do. Look at where they participate in different forums, on what technologies they would be participating. Okay, get this all information in front of your hiring manager so that it becomes very easy for them to take a decision. He could be writing blogs as well. And most of the technical people write blogs. So get all this information to your hiring manager so that it becomes very easy for the hiring manager to take a decision. Okay? Now, what is our end goal in doing this entire exercise? Our end goal is to build a partnership with the hiring manager. So once we've done the intake meeting, once we've defined this entire process of prioritizing the work, then the intake meetings and the collaboration with hiring managers, we build a partnership with them. So in future, when you start working with this hiring manager, it becomes very easy for you to submit your candidates. You know what the expectations are, you know what the SLAs are, and you have an open communication with your leadership team or with your hiring manager, and you tend to fill in more positions with the help of this process. So you don't end up sending too many resumes, unqualified resumes to the hiring manager, and they end up rejecting all your candidates. Yeah? So be an agent of change with them. You tell them, you make them understand what is required in the market, or what is there in the market and what is required doesn't match. They need to be educated. They need to be told, or they need to be told what is available and what we can give it. Okay? So this entire thing would help you in building a proper relationship with your leadership team, with your hiring managers. Okay? Now, towards the end, again, with this, we must be thinking that we would be making everyone happy. But again, I would say it's impossible, because you would face a lot of difficult hiring managers. So it's impossible to actually make everyone happy. But this entire process, what we discussed now, would streamline your process, and at least you would have more productivity, and you can send more resumes to your hiring managers, and the less number of resumes will get rejected. Okay? So any questions you have for me on the client management strategy part?
When
Yes.
we are doing bulk hiring,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Most of the things what you have mentioned will not be able to apply over there.
On the bulk hiring. But again, on the bulk hiring side, you talk to your hiring managers, see what they're doing, what they exactly want, what kind of profiles they want. So if you once establish a relationship with your hiring manager, once you know what that person wants, then instead of just doing a keyword search, you would actually look at the profile, and instead of sending 100 profiles, you would just send him 20 good profiles, and out of those 20, 10 or 15 might get placed. But if you send 100 profiles, the hiring manager would end up rejecting a lot of candidates. He has to go through a list of unqualified candidates. So what happens is that he gets irritated, and he's busy with his lot of work and everything.
What in that sense, when that direct walk-in happens, the client asks us to schedule the candidate. Right? That time, most of the
Yeah, but then normally these walk-ins and everything are for freshers. Okay, so you already have those expectations set with the hiring managers, that what you actually need. So for these walk-ins or something, the expectations are already set.
What happened, I'll tell you, in walk-in, I come from a recruitment company.
Yeah.
So many recruitment company works over there, right? So even though if we are sending a good profile over there, when they saw the lot of candidates sitting across, they go. So we are trying to tell hiring managers that okay, this is not the right strategy, but most of the companies are following the same.
The walk-in strategy.
Yes.
But that normally happens for the junior position roles, or
Not. That's for the lateral one.
for the lateral hiring also.
4 years of experience.
Okay. So see, walk-in now normally what happens is, now if you look at the entire data, I mean, there are a lot of unemployed people, a lot of people actually looking for a job. When they come to know about walk-ins, they would come directly. Okay, so you should be having a set process with your hiring manager where you discuss about your particular candidates, that these candidates we've already screened, we know that these candidates are good, so there would be a lot of other candidates also coming. So that expectation setting, you can do it before the walk-ins happen. So once that expectation setting is done, then the hiring manager would look at your profiles in a different way. They won't look at it as a walk-in candidate for you.
You're doing a lot of things, what you said. Now, what happens is many times, a client gives a one-line JD in the morning.
Yeah.
He expects resumes in the evening. Again, now there's a factor of fastest finger first. Okay, so if I'm a recruitment company and he's a recruitment company, then if I set up a process and keep talking to the client, okay, the recruiter will not be able to send the resumes by evening, and he would send the resumes by evening. Mine would duplicate.
Agreed. But then before you actually now, with our experience, I mean, we've got a sourcing team we work with Europe and US clients. Okay, sometimes it happens that we also get one-liner descriptions, or we just need so and so person. Okay, but we put our foot down and tell the client that send us more information on this candidate. If you just send us this one-liner, we would send you a lot of CVs, and we would end up doing nothing. I mean, the placement chances are also less, and all those things. So put your foot down, tell your client that we need a proper JD. You design your JD in such a way that we discussed about the sample intake form. So you design a JD, tell him that this is the JD, I want the proper requisition in this particular format, and then only we would start working on the requirement. So once that process is set, then the client won't give you one-liners thereafter.
So we prepared a JD also, and we have sent it again to the client from whatever we understood.
Uh-huh.
And whatever we research in the market, similar positions in the market. Okay. Thereafter, there's no response.
So
he is busy, not picking up the call.
yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, before you actually start with any relationship, you have to set expectations between both the parties. Now, see, if you're working on something, you're giving 100%, but the other party is not responding. So again, that relationship won't work. So before you start with a relationship, we talked about the entire process. Set that process with the client or with the hiring manager, and get this processes intact so that you don't follow. You don't have problems in future. Initially, you would have problems with this.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I agree. Because I've been into this industry since 14 years now, and I've faced similar problems. But then sometimes you have to put your foot down and tell them that if you want proper candidates, follow this process. Give us proper JD, give us everything, and then we'll start working and we'll give you proper candidates. So you have to put your foot down somewhere. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.